welcome back to the channel. Today in the shop behind me is a 2003 Chevy Silverado. The customer says or complaint is the HVAC is doing weird things, specifically on the driver's side with the temp control. They said that you have it on hot, everything's working good, and then all of a sudden it'll start going cold just on the driver's side. And vice versa. If it's hot out, you got it on cold, blowing cold for a while, no problem, and then all of a sudden just the driver's side goes to blowing out hot. So I drove it. I did get it to happen. I had it on heat when I drove it. Worked fine for, I don't know, probably 5-10 minutes, no problems, and then all of a sudden it starts blowing cold out the driver's side. So we're going to bring up the schematic. We're going to look at how this works, figure out some wires to test or see what we got to do. So let's get after it. All right, so I printed off the theory of operation and how it works. Over here I've got the schematic. So it's a 5-wire bidirectional control actuator. The brown is your power, yellow is your ground. We know those are good because it works. Sometimes it works normal. This obviously does have the both passenger and driver side temp control. So we're only dealing with the driver side. So your dark blue wire right here is your control. So when you turn the switch, the lever, hot to cold, this is going to send a voltage signal to the actuator. It's either going to be 0 or 5 volts. 2.5 volts is going to be steady, like when you're not messing with it, you set it to hot, leave it there. That's going to stay 2.5 volts right here on this dark blue wire. Now you have your light blue and black wire, which is your 5-volt reference. Now this light blue wire on the end, it's going to send a feedback back to the computer based on what you select. So as you select cold, the shaft rotates, and then this is going to change. There's a resistor in here that changes. And then that's going to send that voltage back to the computer. It's a 0 volt to 5 volt, depending on which direction you're going, hot to cold, where you have it, a little bit hot, a little bit cold. So what I want to do, I have a 2-channel scope. I want to put 1 channel on the control wire and 1 channel on the signal wire going back to the computer. So what I want to see is if the HVAC control unit is just sending a false signal, like when you're not even touching the temperature control, is it sending a signal to this actuator to change? So like I said, we'll set up a 2-channel scope. We'll see what happens. So let me get that set up, and then we'll see what we can get it to do. The PicoScope is hooked up. Like I said, I got a 2-channel. Channel A is going to be the blue line. That's going to be the control wire. Channel B is going to be the red line, and that is going to be the signal wire back to the HVAC control module. So first thing I want to do is scan it, see what codes. I'm sure there's circuit codes in there. Yep. One of them is a temperature control 2, which would be the passenger side, but not worried about that. So I'm going to clear them and see what we can see on the scope. Erase. Read them one more time. So B0414 seems to be maybe a hard code. Let's try to erase it again. Yep. Seems to be a hard code. So we'll go into data, see what it says while we're, see if we, what changes on the scanner. Left mix motor, drive, actual. We'll still do this for now. Okay, now I'm going to shut the key off. Run the scope. Now I'm going to mess with it. We'll get you on the, over here. There we go. Turn you a little bit. So far, it was at 0 volts. Right now the blue, we're looking at, I can drag it here, about 2.5. So this is should be normal. Resting at 2.5. I'm not messing with anything. Now I'm just curious, as time goes on, do I start getting a command signal down there? And if I do get a command signal, am I getting a return signal to the module? Oh, looks like the program just froze up on me. All right, program seemed to unfreeze and we'll continue. Still looking. Now, I'm not sure. I don't think that this signal wire should be stuck at 0. The vehicle isn't started yet, so, but not sure. That could be why we are having the hard code in there, because this is still at 0 volts. So let me start it up, see if anything changes. Okay, the signal has come down to 0 volts. So it's requesting a change. I'm not sure which way it's trying to change, but it is requesting a change. Again, I didn't touch any of the controls on there or anything, but now we're at steady at 2.5. Still not getting much on the signal wire though. We're still kind of at 0 on the signal wire. So what we'll do is I'll let this run for a little bit, see if we get any changes in this. If we don't, then maybe I'll have to drive it while monitoring this. I'm not sure, but we'll let this run and I'll try to. We're getting some little activity, but not much. See, I just changed the temperature knob. I moved it down all the way to cold. It was on hot, and I've got no request. That should either move up to 5 volts or back down to 0 volts, the blue line. That would be the request to move it. And then as it's moving, the red line is supposed to change voltage, just tell the computer where it's at. But I'm getting nothing right now. So we'll let this run and see if we get any activity. All right, so it's still not doing much here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to wiggle the wires down at the connector and see if this changes. Do we have a bad connection? Is that why it only happens going down the road from the bumps or something? So let's move these wires. You can see the red line climbing. I'm not, unless it's trying to, yeah, if I move these wires back and forth, let me show you down here. Just barely touching them like this. You can see all the squigglies I get. So I think we've got a problem with the wiring. Look, all this touching I'm doing. So I'm gonna shut it off, disconnect this. Maybe there's a pin fitment issue or something like that, but we'll look once we unhook it. All right, guys. So yes, the wires are very loose inside this plastic housing. You can see right there on the top, right up there, how the pins are showing now. So I think from it being bent, from the factory, they should have gave it more wire, so the wires could have stayed straighter, bigger curve going up in, but they didn't. So I think just from sitting like this so tight for so long that it kind of got a little wobbly in there. All of them are actually pretty wobbly. So what I've done just for testing purposes is I've zip tied these wires. You can see this green zip tie. Kind of keep them in place, and we'll fire it back up and see what this does. So we'll plug it back in. You can see that angle it's on. That's going to take the pins inside to push, towards it essentially. So what I've done is just zip tied the wires right here to kind of keep those where they should be. Plug it in. Still got the scope running. We'll hit the scope, turn the key on. Okay, so we've already got some improvement here. We got a little movement over here. We'll let this go by. There we go. Now if I take my red ruler down here, slide it down. So we're reading some voltage. I don't know if you can read that, but it's like 300 millivolts we're reading there. The blue is about 2.5 volts, so that's good. Now what I want to do is move the lever, or the temperature change, and see if we get some movement. So let's do that here. All right, let's see if I move, what happens. Nope, got to move the driver's side, not the passenger side. All right, we'll let this go through again. So it was on all the way hot. I'm now traveling down to cold. And you can see every time I move it, the blue line goes up to 5 volts. kind of strains out and then stays steady, but you can see that the red line is gaining voltage also. The farther I go down to cold, the higher that red line is going to go as far as voltage goes. So it's working right now. Let me, I'm wiggling the wires right now the same way I did last time. And we are getting no, spikes or anything like that. Red line still probably around just under 4 volts. Yeah, 3.5-ish volts in that range. Moving the wires right now. All right. Let's go back up to hot on the temperature control. See if everything is working the other way. There we go. Yep. So you can see when you want to go to hot, the blue line drops to 0 volts for a minute, and then kind of levels itself out at 2.5. Red line is dropping voltage also, which is the signal wire. All the way up to full hot. Oops. So there we have it. We have found the problem. Loose connection down there. The fix is probably going to replace that connector, wire in a new one, so the terminals are nice and tight. I just zip tied it to kind of make sure that's the only problem we had. I also, after I zip tied it, I tried to clear that hard code we had. Cleared right away. So this has got to be our problem. I'm thinking over the bumps when they were driving it, hitting the bumps and stuff, is wiggling those wires, and that was what's causing the change every so often. So we will call the customer, see what they want to do, and if I get the job, I'll show you how to, wire in a new connector there. If not, I hope this video helped. Got to use the scope. So if you liked it, give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.